Meow! I'm Huples cat. Let's look at walking pneumonia.
I think that infection's due to some pneumonia.
It's not quiet. You've probably got a pneumonia in there.
You can slow it down.
Yeah.
You can slow it down here.
What we're doing,
If you're not good,
we'll put things in place if you need them.
it's not worth killing yourself for.
You're going to go again?
Yeah, don't fix it.
What a good sport you are. Oh my God, wow. You are something incredible, man.
Highlight of my race, partner. I'm a bit of a fucking yell at shit in the forest with.
Sometime in 2025 to 2028, walking pneumonia is going to be in the media, on the news, everywhere. Walking pneumonia comes in waves every 3 to 5 years. 2023 was a bad year.
Walking pneumonia is not a medical term. It's the layman's term for a mild case of pneumonia. Technically, it's called atypical pneumonia. It's caused by bacteria or viruses, spreads when an infected person coughs or sneezes, and is common. The term is popular because usually the symptoms like congestion, fever, chills, and headache look like a bad cold. In fact, you may feel well enough to push through your daily routine or even go to work. However, doctors warn not to be fooled. Even though walking pneumonia is considered a mild lung infection, it can be serious. And recovery time depends on the person and if you have other medical problems like asthma or COPD. Prevention is the best cure. To cut the risk of getting sick, get plenty of rest, exercise, and eat healthy food. You can always talk to your doctor about the pneumonia vaccine.
To repeat from the previous video that I did on bacterial pneumonia, of which walking pneumonia is a moderate, safer type, if you have one or more of these symptoms that I've starred, get to a doctor, get to healthcare as fast as you possibly can. Do not put it off. Because if you're one of the high risk groups, it's really important that you get help very quickly because you're at much more risk of organ failure and death. But even if you're not at risk, like Jim Henson wasn't, don't wait 3 days with really bad signs and symptoms before seeking health care if you have bacterial pneumonia.
He was only 53 years old, and his passing today came as a complete surprise. New York Hospital announced that puppeteer Jim Henson had been admitted early Tuesday with what is described as galloping pneumonia. His condition had been untreated for at least 3 days, and early this morning at 1:30 Eastern Time, he died.
Lots of people. But my friends were all gone.
These are the groups, illnesses and poor lifestyle choices that make it much more likely that you will catch walking pneumonia and suffer adversely from it. Like I said, 2023 was the last time we had a lot of walking pneumonia in North America, so we're probably going to see it again in 2025 to 2028. Generally, we're going to see it in September, October and November. However, it bears reminding people that things are different in the southern hemisphere. They're not just upside down there, their seasons are as well. So they might see it in March or February. That's one of the things you need to look out for as a prepper. If you notice that Australia's had a really bad flu epidemic in March, you can pretty much guarantee in September you in Seattle are going to have one as well. And vice versa. Sometimes we're first, sometimes they're first. How's this for golf today? They've all decided to settle in the middle of the fairway. So walking pneumonia basically presents as a bad chest cold. You don't feel great, you don't feel dying. If you can take your temperature, and I hope you can, you'll find that the temperature is 38 centigrade or less, which is 101 Fahrenheit or less for Americans who don't know what centigrade is. These are the bacterial pneumonia signs and symptoms. They're going to be much more severe, and in adults particularly, the temperature is going to be much hotter, above 39 centigrade. With the rest of the symptoms, you might want to consider antibiotics and medical therapy rapidly. Now, one of the evil things with walking pneumonia and bacterial pneumonia is the person who is infected is walking around, spreading it, infecting other people for about 4 weeks before that person has any signs or symptoms. This is why you probably need to start reducing your activities in the fall and early winter, making sure that you're not out and about in crowds, and when you go to the grocery stores it's not full. You might want to consider wearing an N95 mask. You might want to consider washing your hands more aggressively when you're in public. A whole bunch of things you can do to prevent airborne infections and droplet infections. I'm not going to get into that, because if you don't know that at this point, there's something wrong with you. Once they start to show signs and symptoms, they're going to be infectious to other people until they have no more symptoms at all. So this is why walking pneumonia really spreads. Literally for 2 to 4 weeks, people are walking around, no idea they're infected, spreading it like crazy. Be careful where you put your hands, be careful where you put your mouth, be very careful. But because they become in waves, you can pretty much predict it. At some point in the winter of 2025 or 2026 or 2027, you'll probably see a walking pneumonia outbreak. Plan accordingly. Generally, you're going to take Advil or Tylenol, get a lot of rest, try drinking a lot of fluids. 3 to 4 litres is probably adequate for walking pneumonia. And have a look at your urine. What's the colour and how much of it? If there's hardly any and it's a really coppery dark colour, drink more fluid. With walking pneumonia, you're going to be ill on and off for 6 weeks. And when I say ill, you probably won't ever take to your bed and stay there for 24 to 48 to 72 hours like you would with bacterial pneumonia or real flu. But with walking pneumonia, you're kind of sick all the time, but some days are worse than others. So you kind of kid yourself into going, it's nothing, I'm just a bit run down, I should be fine. If you start to get high temperature that's really high, if you start to develop worse symptoms, get to the doctor rapidly. Now, prevention is always cheaper, safer and better than cure. In a disaster, be aware of wood smoke and inhalation. If you can, restrict visitors or visiting people in the fall and the winter. In an ongoing disaster, small children probably need to not socialise with other small children at all, and you need to keep them in a little box in your basement. An N95 mask when needed is actually a great preventative. It's also a good idea to wear this when you're encountering new people in a disaster for various other reasons, which I'm not going to get into right now. Now, walking pneumonia can develop into full-scale bacterial pneumonia and then treat that accordingly. That was the last video I did, but it's rare. The differentiation between walking pneumonia and bacterial pneumonia is quite simple. The temperature is much lower in walking pneumonia. The severity of the effects is much lower in walking pneumonia. C19 now apparently is endemic, but the main difference between C19 and walking pneumonia is the fact that taste and smell is most likely to be affected, and you're going to have GI symptoms much more often, i.e. nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. Treating C19 with antibiotics will do absolutely nothing. However, if you've got a secondary bacterial pneumonia and C19, it will help with the secondary bacterial pneumonia. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these videos and I hope you don't get sick in 2025. But if you do, remember, Huples Cat said keep your children in the basement in a box and they won't infect you. In all seriousness, think about this. In a disaster without healthcare, without electricity, without running water, it's going to be a lot harder to maintain basic infectious control. And we have a hard time as it is in our society preventing the spread of infections. When it's critical that you go out for 6 hours a day and get wood, when it's critical that you try and get food, when it's critical that you need to do X, Y and Z and there's nobody else going to do it for you and you're very run down, getting something like walking pneumonia is really not something you want to have to deal with as well as everything else in a disaster. Have a great day. Toodles. This has been a Wolfie Terrier 2024 production. Fucking hell, I can't do this. Can't do this at all. Get yourself together.